Marketing your startup. So with that, let's welcome Joey. Thanks for being here, Joe.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me. So I normally talk here at Carnegie Mellon pretty often, but what I normally talk about is raising money and just startup stuff. But I've been asked to come back and talk a little bit more just about marketing your startup because in my history, I've seen a lot of cases where you don't actually have to raise money to be successful with your startup. So I'm going to kind of go through what I think you can do to get traction, to even turn into a successful business without raising money, and how to market your startup in this day and age in 2019. So just a little bit more about me. I went to Carnegie Mellon. Like Craig said, I started a company called College Prowler, which is now Niche. Then I started a company called Branding Brand, which is in the South Side. Helped start a company in my living room called The Zebra. It's like a kayak for auto insurance. They went on to raise around $60 million and moved to Austin. Helped grow a company, which is a family business called EIVF, which is a fertility clinic software. It's now valued at $100 million. I did all the marketing for them. And nowadays, I work on lots of little startups. I'm part of 99 Tartans with Rob Meyer, where I look at Carnegie Mellon startups often and either invest or try to give them advice. Working actively right now with Robotany and Gridwise, having a lot of fun with that, and doing that pro bono. I love to work with startups here from Carnegie Mellon especially. So if you got ideas, if you got a startup going on, please reach out to me and we'll talk. And many of you have already done that, so I really appreciate that. Working on lots of other startups. Responsible, which is a web design agency. Fauna Care, which is an animal wound spray, all types of stuff. Brushy, which I'll talk to you guys about, which is like a toothbrush thing that I kind of invented with a friend. And I also do the marketing consulting for Amazon and Dropbox right now. So that's how I really pay the bills. Can't just do all this fun stuff for free, but I can because of Amazon and Dropbox. They pay me well. So marketing obviously is needed everywhere. Small business, startup, large corporations, I've done it all. Helped my dad grow his restaurant. Helped my own startups grow. And I do the marketing for Dropbox and Amazon, right? Even though it's all different sized businesses, the tactics are always pretty much the same. The verbiage, the terminology, everything is pretty much the same. So regardless of where you want to apply marketing tactics, it could be for a family member helping them out with their small business or for a large corporation or your own startup. It's pretty much going to be the same stuff. So to me, marketing is super, super important because without it, you don't have sales, you don't have service, you don't have operations, finance, legal, all that stuff you think you need for your startup. But in reality, the most important thing is marketing. Product is underneath marketing because I've seen so many crappy products do really well because of great marketing, right? So I'm putting in terms of importance, marketing at the top of this importance funnel thing that I made. So yeah, we're going to talk about just the different tactics that you can use, but I just really want to stress that if you are starting your own startup, you got to be kind of good at marketing too. Or bring someone on that really enjoys marketing. Because the CEO or the founder of a startup is pretty much the CMO as well, right? Just how it works. So a lot of times, when you start a company, people advise you that you kind of have to just fake it till you make it, right? You got to have a pretty deck, a nice website, start a blog, make sure you have a prototype, right? Start your social media and get some PR. These are all important things you have to do, but in reality, if you don't really nail one of them really well, it's going to be tough to scale your startup. Sure, you got to do all these things, and you got to make yourself look bigger than you are. That's the beauty of marketing, is if you just do a little bit of it, you start to look bigger than what you already are, which is great. But if you kind of spread yourself too thin, it's kind of tough to really scale a strategy. You can't be an expert in all of these, and you can't expect anyone to be an expert at all of these things. So what skill sets do you really need to perform any sort of marketing endeavor, right? Kind of tried to break it down into what you actually need, right? Obviously, you need finance and legal. You want to, you're going to have a marketing budget. You want to see an ROI. You're going to have a little bit of legal, right? Make sure you don't do anything illegal or stupid that could get you in trouble, right? You're going to sometimes need a developer to execute a campaign or to integrate a technology you want to use. Definitely, you're going to need a mentor. If you're not good at marketing, go find a mentor in the marketing space. Regardless, you're always going to want to do this for startups, right? You're always going to want to find a mentor like a Craig to help you grow your startup. Sales, the CEO and founder is always going to be the salesperson for their startup, so don't outsource that. You have to be that salesperson. Branding, same deal. If you are the founder of your company, the branding starts with you. But if you can't figure out how to brand your company, you can seek someone, outsource that temporarily. Analytics, same deal. You want to understand where your marketing budget is going, what's most effective, reallocate your budget. Pretty easy stuff. Copywriting and design, though, those two things over there, I'm doing them last because, I'm talking about them last because they're by far the most important. And I don't expect every founder here to be a designer, and I don't expect them to be the best copywriter ever. You can outsource copywriting quickly, one time, to make sure your verbiage is correct and the way you're portraying your brand is smart. But design, you need someone full-time, or you need that person that you can go to often. So find an awesome designer, regardless of what your company is. It could be a service, a product, a robot, I don't care. Go get an awesome designer that you can at least partner with, give a small piece of your business to, or just have in your network that you can access whenever you need to, and pay them well, because it's by far one of the most important parts of marketing. If you look at the iPhone, right? One of the reasons why people love their iPhone so much is not because of the hardware, but it's really the design of the software and the design of how usable things are, right? So notice as you look around and you look around at the world and see what's out there, the things that really catch on to you that are marketing, because it's everywhere, will be things that are well designed. So that's why design is so important. So at a large organization, though, and this is what we're not going to be doing, but I did want to show you, like at a Dropbox or an Amazon, this is what a marketing team kind of looks like. So you'll see how complex and how many different roles there are, but it usually starts with a chief marketing officer at the top. That chief marketing officer usually has some direct reports, and they may include a director of marketing and a creative director. The creative director could have many different titles, different names for their title, but they're pretty much in charge of the brand, along with the CMO. And that creative director has a designer, right? That has a copywriter full-time, has potentially someone that does video, maybe they outsource that. But next to that creative director, they're gonna have these two roles right next to them, and they're individual roles. Then on the other side of things, once the brand is set and the tone is set, and that could be company-wide tone, could be a new campaign branding and tone, but on the other side is the director of marketing, and that's more executional, tactical. I'm gonna have my analytics person under me, my affiliate person under me, my PR and social teams, my search engine team, my email person, and some of that will be outsourced, some of that will be in-house, but you see how complex a marketing team can be. There's no way a startup can come in here and be like, all right, I'm going to do all these things and succeed. Yes, sir?
You said that the co-founders kind of have a part in this marketing analytics and background, branding, things like that. Can you give us some tips on if we have a startup and we have our designer working on a product and the co-founder who's maybe a business person in my case, can you give us some tips on what does good branding look like, what does good social media strategy look like, what does marketing and outreach look like?
Totally. So the question was, founders spread too thin, may have a designer working on product. What does a good social media strategy look like? What does a good branding campaign look like? And it'll be completely dependent on what it is that you're offering. So can I ask you what it is that your business provides?
We're a peer-to-peer marketplace that helps students find and post subleases when they travel for internships. Think of Airbnb, but specifically for students.
Great. So branding, and I have a slide on this, which I'll definitely get to. How about when I get to that branding slide, I talk about that? All right, and then when I get to the social media slide, I'll also talk about that. So if I forget, just like, give me the finger. All right, cool. Oh, this is the branding slide, good. So it all starts with branding, right? Branding is visual identity, the tone. Honestly, when I first heard of branding and started reading branding books, I thought it was straight BS. I was like, there's no way. This is stupid. This is fluff, marketing jargon and fluff. But it really isn't. And I'll show you some examples of why it isn't. But the visual identity, who you are. So you brought up you are an Airbnb for kids that are on an internship and want a sublease, right? So copywriting. How do you describe your business in one sentence? Right? So what is, can I figure that out on the fly? Probably not. But if we sat down in front of a whiteboard for an hour, we would figure it out at the end of that hour, because we would just throw everything against the wall and see what really resonates with us. But being able to describe that business in one clear sentence so that people get it, that's what branding, what identity and tone will dictate. But then tone, let's talk more about tone. How do you want to be? Do you want to be edgy? Do you want to be professional? Do you want to be crazy and zany, right? So one thing that I always recommend when it comes to branding is find other examples of other companies, regardless of industry, how they portray themselves, and use it as inspiration. Do you want to be Apple? Do you want to be Tesla? Do you want to be Airbnb? Do you want to be Uber? Maybe there are more aggressive startups that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you Casper and what they're doing. So that's how I would focus on the branding. In terms of design, it's going to be the same thing. Based on whatever your tone is going to, it will dictate what visuals you use to portray yourself, right? If you're going to be professional, you're going to have to use professional visuals. If you're going to be edgy, you're going to have to use edgy visuals. So it'll permeate throughout your entire strategy. But in reality, you have a name yet? Yeah, RevTrust. RevTrust? All right, cool. Did you say RevTrust? RevTrust.com. Oh, rent. Okay, cool. I'm getting some ideas already. But the word trust, because that's what your name is, you've already dictated some of your brand strategy. So trust you can still be edgy, but you still have to have elements of trust throughout the copy, throughout the visuals, throughout everything. So hope that helps a little bit, but we would need to dive in some more. But find inspiration. Find other sites that you think do it right, regardless of industry. So it'll dictate your strategy too. It'll dictate how you post on social media. It'll dictate what creative you use on display ads. It'll dictate what your email campaigns look like. It'll dictate what your customer service is like when people call in the phone and your messaging of the operator message. So it'll dictate everything. But it really all starts with branding. So here's an example of a company I really like, and there's many of these success stories nowadays of companies coming out of nowhere and becoming billion-dollar companies in the product space. They do mattresses, right? They ship you everyone, and I'm sure you've all heard of Casper, right? Anyone own a Casper? Okay, well, they do really well, I promise. Mattresses are expensive. They're a pain in the ass to bring up your stairs. These guys ship them to you in a box. The box is light. You bring it upstairs, you unpack it, it unfluffs, and it's super comfortable. And they offer, I think, like a 90-day or 180-day guarantee. Like, if you don't like it, you can return it. So this is their brand. First of all, they named themselves Casper. It starts there. Casper. It has nothing to do with beds, but it kind of does. Casper the friendly ghost. Casper, like ghost sleep. I don't know. It's weird, but it also makes sense. It's edgy. It's creative. It's different. Amazon, right, the largest e-commerce marketplace in the world, they named themselves Amazon because the Amazon rainforest has the most species in the world, right? Therefore, that can translate to the largest e-commerce with the most products in the world. So it's okay to give yourself an obscure name if you can kind of tell the story of how you got to that name.
This has been something I've been curious about for years as an ex-employee. Talk me through how you decided on college prowler.
So back we were bad branders back then because people thought with College Prowler, that was the name of our original business, people thought it was a little obscure, right? And it seemed a little, I don't know, pervy, right? So, yeah. So it was tough. We learned a lot from that. But basically, there was a company called Stock Prowler, and we were all subscribed to this stock website that prowled all these different stocks and gave you stock tips, and we would buy stocks and make money off of it. So we were like, oh, we're going to do that, but for colleges. So it became College Prowler. You grow, you kind of look back and be like, oh, man, I wish we could change the name, but it's tough, right? It's tough to go backwards. I left by the time it changed to niche.com. Also a very obscure name, if you really think about it. Like, what does that have to do with finding the right neighborhood, finding the right college? Yeah, find your niche. So it did tie in properly, but it also was, not the perfect name, but still doing pretty well and still able to grow and brand the company well. So yeah, great question. Sometimes you make a mistake, and sometimes you have to kind of decide what to do.
Not to commiserate too much on the name, but what's your thoughts around a name that's sort of functional, ties into your industry, a name that is completely unrelated, a made-up word, something nonsensical? Do you have a preference for what you'd like to see?
Yeah, I prefer this. A name that ties into your industry can come off as hokey, can come off as a little passé. A name that you can kind of tie in that's a little obscure is a little more edgier, and I think the future, it is getting kind of corny because everyone seems to be doing it now, but In terms of something obscure that has nothing to do with your business, yeah, stay away from that. But it has to tie in, and it has to tie in hopefully naturally, not so that you have to explain it, right? Google and Amazon, you kind of did have to explain it. People didn't really understand. But Casper, you kind of get a little bit. So I prefer Casper. Any other questions? Their brand permeates throughout their ads. They chose to be edgy and professional, but mostly edgy. The perfect mattress for insomniacs. It's a Facebook ad. Sweet dreams are made of this, right? That's their brand voice. It's how they're going to talk throughout. The perfect mattress for furries. You know, you guys know the furry conventions in Pittsburgh? Like, I copied this ad on here because the perfect mattress for furries. That's very edgy. It's a completely different subculture that exists that is very controversial. And they're edgy. They're showing their edginess to this. They're trying to target a very specific market with all these ads. They have tons of these ads specific to the use case of the person that could potentially need Casper. So to me, this is great branding. It is one of the reasons why they blew up so fast. Yes, they solved the problem. Mattresses were too expensive, and they were a pain to bring up your stairs. They had a big marketing budget, so this one isn't really applicable if you didn't have a big marketing budget. But they used their marketing budget on something called display advertisement. You log into Facebook, you see those display ads, they spent tens of millions on those ads. So they raised a lot of money. They hired a really good firm called Red Antler. If any of you guys have the budget for them, they're a really great firm that has done this with many other brands. So these are the pillars really that I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to talk about how to do these things for free and give you some examples of how startups that I've worked with or startups that I founded use these tactics in a very kind of sweat equity way to grow their business. Social media, search, email, and display. So let's start with social media marketing. First thing you might think of is, oh no, I got to set up a Facebook and start posting stuff. That's true, you do. But the only reason you're doing that is so that you look credible. It's not going to drive sales. It's not going to drive revenue. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to make you look legit. So you got to do it. Do you have to set up a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn? No. Use the tools that apply to your business. You're definitely going to have to do LinkedIn. It's just a requirement. Every one of your businesses has to have a LinkedIn page, and you have to associate that LinkedIn page with your profile. You probably have to have a Facebook. You don't need a Snapchat. Sometimes you may need an Instagram, depending on what you're selling and what your product is. Twitter you'll need. It's kind of like a checkbox. You just need it for important updates that you want to release. It just makes you look more legit. And YouTube, you probably don't need unless your company truly makes video or you need video to explain your product or service. So in terms of strategy, though, posting is definitely a strategy, right? You do it to make yourself look legit, but you're not going to make money off it. But you can make money off of two other strategies in social media that are very, very important. And sometimes these strategies are each controlled by a different department at a large organization. But in a startup, you can pull both of these off with some sweat, hard work, and sweat. The first is influencers. Everyone know what an influencer is? We log into our Facebook and Instagram, and we see them all the time. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not that they're promoting a product. But the way to target influencers is whatever it is that you're selling, you want to search the hashtag or search a keyword based on people you think could talk about your product and service and give them something in return to talk about their product and service, your product and service. Whether you give them equity, whether you give them money, whether you give them free product or service, or sometimes they just need to know about you and they'll talk about you out of the kindness of their own heart because they think you're awesome. So that strategy there of making a nice big list and reaching out to them to get them to talk about you is super important because it can be done for free or for very little money. And people nowadays gravitate more towards the social media side of promotion rather than a banner ad on a website or a billboard on the street. So this is the future of marketing right now, and so many organizations are really struggling to tap into this because they think it's too innovative and too edgy, and they think it's just millennial stuff that they have no idea how to conquer. So this is where there's a lot of opportunity when selling the businesses or when growing a business, because not many people are doing it. With a display ad on a blog, you're competing with the world's largest organizations. They can outspend you in 2 seconds. But with influencers, they're just not built right now to scale this. So super important. Definitely see if influencers applies to your business. It might apply to yours. Can you give me an example maybe of how you can use it? What type of influencer would help promote your website?
So we're reaching out to college students in this professional way. So
Yep.
anyone who is a LinkedIn influencer or Instagram where they have more of a professional entrepreneurial following.
Okay.
Those people are very undergrad universities reach out to us.
Okay, so it sounds like you want to get yourself out there more on a business sense, like Fast Company, like in terms of PR, you'd want to be on like Fast Company, Business Week, and that's cool, but in terms of targeting your target market, right, you're going to want to find influencers that potentially travel, right? There are a lot of digital nomads out there on Instagram that are talking about their experience in country to country, and I'm sure they have a home, right? I'm sure they have a space at home that they're going to want to lease one day, or they already are leasing. But if you can find those and tap into them and have them promote your service, your website, you'll be reaching that core audience of people that actually need to use your product or service. So that's what I would recommend on an influencer strategy is definitely cool to do it in terms of the business side of things, grow your business, right? Just get your business out there in terms of the business world, like I said, the Fast Companies and the Business Weeks, but try to really reach your core demographic so that you get more users to your site. But both will work. Sure.
So I've noticed that LinkedIn has a much better viral effect. So if I like something or I comment something or I tag myself in something, it gets a lot more impressions than a Facebook or an Instagram. But I've also heard from like PR marketers that you don't really want to spend a lot of money on advertising. You'd rather advertise on a bigger social network like Facebook, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to shed light on that, or can you shed light on where to put that ad dollars?
Yeah. I'll always start with it's going to really depend on what you're selling. For your market, I do think Facebook would be more effective than LinkedIn, simply because if these digital nomad types, I think, are not going to be on LinkedIn looking all proper. They're going to be more of a Facebook or Instagram crowd. This is my hunch. We'd have to research that. So it really just depends on the market. If I'm looking to do B2B marketing, I'm dumping all of my money in LinkedIn, all of it. Not even looking at Facebook, right? So it really just depends on your service. My hunch is that Instagram is yours, potentially Facebook. Instagram does have more of the sophisticated traveling type, more than Facebook. So we can talk about that more, though. Last question?
Yes.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, the videos. So I did my first 2 LinkedIn videos.
Cool.
And I didn't pay for it, but
Great.
they did fairly well.
Okay.
Almost 5,000 views.
Excellent.
And so my question is, I noticed that a lot of the LinkedIn videos that come across as salesy, where it sounds like a TV ad,
Yeah.
tend to get less views than the ones that are more helpful content, useful for that particular audience.
Yep.
So do you have any rule of thumb in regards to, but you don't want to just post and not do the call to action for your business because that's a waste of time.
Right.
So how do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's a great question. So all these algorithms, whether it's Google's search engine algorithm or LinkedIn or Facebook's algorithm on what shows up on the feed, they're all powered by one common theme that they'll all tell you. It's not anything sophisticated. It's just add value to the internet. That's it. If you're not adding value to the internet, you're not going to show up high on Google or LinkedIn. So how do you show value to the internet? It's not by being salesy, and it's not by inserting your call to action throughout the entire thing, because that's annoying. It's by giving that user, that watcher, something of value so that they associate your name and face with things of value. Once you have that relationship with your audience, the visitors and the watchers that are watching you and visiting your site, they're going to buy from you. So it's more important to give them value so that they associate your brand with value than it is to sell them something. So, and that's how you're going to show up high in the algorithms. Then once you start showing up high, sprinkle it in a little bit. Sprinkle in your call to action. But don't worry too much about that till you have an audience. Cool example is I just helped a woman who literally has her own Facebook group where she does Facebook Live selling of fashion, just clothing she curates. She'll go buy like 1,000 off-the-shoulder sweaters and just sell them in like 10 minutes. But the reason she built that up, the reason she started selling those sweaters, she wasn't selling them from the beginning. She was building her audience at the beginning. How was she building her audience? By providing free fashion advice on a Facebook group. People would send her pictures. She'd be like, nah, don't do that. Wear this. Try this. Try that. She did that for a year. Literally built up this huge group. And then once that year passed and she had this amazing group that loved her, started pushing sweaters like crazy. Millionaire from that. Literally, she created her own infomercial live selling thing that you see on, what do you call that, on Shop NBC, right? Yeah, on QVC. She made her own QVC on Facebook because she built her audience up and gave them something of value. Okay, last, these ads. You log into Facebook or Instagram. Has anyone here ever bought something off an Instagram ad? Oh man, I'm like addicted to that. Like they just know what I want. That thing for my dog, that thing for my son, like I'm buying Apple Pay, I'm out of here, right? Like that is what I do on Instagram, and it's so powerful. So those ads on social media, if it is relevant to your business, are super powerful. It sucks because it's not actually people searching for your service like Google, like typing it in and actually searching for you, but the algorithms and the targeting that Facebook has, it's essentially a cookie, right? They put a cookie on your website, on your browser, and Facebook tracks where you shop. I shop at, my wife shops at Sephora and maybe Route 21 and Burberry, and she shops at all these places. So if you have a startup that has clothing similar to them or a product similar to them, Facebook will target that for you without telling you where they're getting it from, right? So it's like a little black box of Facebook advertising. And that's what makes it so good is Facebook will say, whoa, Joey's wife actually checks out at Sephora and completes purchases at Route 21. They would probably be a good fit for you. And that's why Facebook advertising is blowing up. And so many large corporations are taking money out of Google and putting it into Facebook. So definitely buy their stock because they're doing really well, and it's only evolving. Monthly users for each platform, right? Doesn't really matter though. What matters is where you can actually get an ROI and where your market actually lives. You see YouTube is huge, but man, YouTube marketing is really, really hard. So I would stay away from it unless you're really in that space and it's required. But Facebook, Instagram, a lot of opportunity in those two. So here's a product that I helped invent, and I'm starting to market right now, and I'm learning a lot from it. It's called Brushy. It's a disposable toothbrush. You can take it on the go. It's got a pick. It's got floss on it. It's got toothpaste in the bristles. And you can reuse it, too, as long as you have some toothpaste with you. But eventually, you're going to have to throw it out. It is disposable. We are working on a compostable version. I'm not a big fan of waste, but I think it is very effective because when you're on the go, sometimes you really want a clean mouth. So what are we doing to market this thing with no money, right? So the co-founder and I were like, you know what, let's put 20 grand into this. And at first he was like, hey, let's spend some Facebook ads, let's do some influencers, let's do some display ads, we'll do some email marketing, we'll do this, we'll do that, right? Spread that 20,000 across everywhere. But I came back to him and I said, actually, let's just spend 20 grand on free products. Let's print $20,000 worth of these and give them out. Because once they try, if they like it, they'll rebuy. And if they don't, they won't, right? So that's what we're doing. And I'll report later on the success of that. But sometimes marketing is just something that simple with a small budget. And it's actually very common. Procter & Gamble, lots of bigger companies that own these consumable products will do is they'll get them out there. Because if you like it, you will come back and buy more. So all we're doing is hitting up influencers and saying, you want free brushies? We'll give them to you. Just talk about them. So we're giving out $20,000 in brushies to influencers that agree to talk about it for free. If you talk shit on it, so be it. We don't care. But if you like it, you'll tell us you like it. And we think 95% will like it, 5% will talk smack on it, and that's just what we're going to live with. And we think that's effective enough. So that'll be a marketing strategy for Brushy, and that's what we're doing right now. No results quite yet, but I think it'll work.
How long do you expect that to take?
Probably about 3 months. Make a long list of influencers, reach out, reach out, reach out. They reply, some are interested, some say go to hell, pay me $1,000 if you want me to talk about you. Sorry, we don't have that, we're just a small startup. But some will be like, yeah, I'd love to help you, and this seems like a cool product. They get it, they try it, they post it, They feel cool because a brand's reaching out to them. I also go after micro-influencers. So if you have a couple thousand followers, that's good enough for me. Because think about the ROI there, right? All it takes is a couple customers and I break even. So display marketing. Here's an example of a competitor of mine. It really isn't, but it's called Quip. Anyone have the Quip? Of course you do. You're a baller. But Quip is a toothbrush that's just smaller. I really don't know what the point of Quip is, but I have one too. It's smaller. It's an electrical toothbrush. It's smaller, it's sleek, it's sexy. They have really nice ads. But this is an example of a display campaign. So Quip is like Casper. They wanted to disrupt the electric toothbrush market. If you had the Oral-B thing, those things were huge and they made a lot of noise. This one's small, makes less noise. But they wanted to disrupt the same way Casper did, to spend a ton of money on display advertising. So here's an example of display. This is CNN.com, and they got this big, kind of weird, clunky-looking banner at the top of the CNN.com. This is what most organizations are used to, right? They're not used to social media ads quite yet. It's still too new. They're not used to influencer marketing. They're used to this. They're used to, oh my God, spend 20% of our revenues on marketing, dump it into display advertising. This advertising is crap. But you still want to measure it in this way right here. So we're going to do some measurement real quick on a very small marketing budget. So let's say I want to spend $100 to appear on CNN. I can. You can log into Google Ads right away and choose CNN and give them $100, and your ad will be on CNN for a very short amount of time, a couple of seconds, but you will be on CNN. Well, let's say that 100 ads got me 10,000 impressions. An impression is just, it appears, right? That's all an impression is. Someone clicks on a page, that ad appears. That is an impression. Whether they click on it or not, that's irrelevant, but an impression is 10,000. So I'm literally paying $10 per 1,000 impressions. In the ad industry, this is commonly referred to as CPM, right? Cost per mil. Mil is Italian or Spanish, and it means 1,000. So for 1,000 impressions, I'm paying $10 CPM. So CNN cost me $10 CPM, but maybe Bloomberg's $4 CPM. Maybe Facebook's $1 CPM. You want to compare all your different marketing channels based on CPM as one of your factors. But let's say this ad on CNN that looks like that got me 100 clicks. That's a CTR, a click-through rate of 1%. Other things you're going to need to know as you compare all the different channels of marketing, right? What ad is most effective where? You can see how this could get complicated and why you'll need spreadsheets, right? But it's very common in the ad and the display marketing world. So CPC is cost per click. It's $1, right? Spent $100, got 100 clicks. That means it's $1 a click. Okay, cool. This traffic started coming to my website. I got 100 people going to my Quip website. Spent $100. I got to sell a couple of toothbrushes to make my money back, though. Normally, it just doesn't work like that. People discover you for the first time. They're just not going to buy right away. But sometimes it does work. If the product truly is revolutionary and well needed and very needed in your life, you might, right? So most companies don't expect to really break even. They expect to just stop the bleeding a little bit and help grow their brand. But let's pretend that they actually did break even. So those visitors, let's say, spent 4 minutes and 51 seconds on the site, another metric you're going to want to look at. Let's say you're advertising on Bloomberg and the time on site for that traffic was 30 seconds. Cut your funding there, reinvest it into CNN right away, right? So just another metric you want to look at when buying traffic. That traffic looked at 2.2 pages, and hey, 2 people bought, right? That means 2% conversion, easy math. Revenue is $240. My AOV, average order value, is $120 each for that toothbrush. So I spent $100 to make $240. Cost of the brush, all the other things being involved, if that happened, that would be really successful. And instead of spending $100, I would probably spend $1 million. Maybe CNN can't handle $1 million with an ad budget and it'll be oversaturated, so I sprinkle it out to other similar sources, but that's how you're going to look at pretty much every ad campaign that you run. Pretty simple math, nothing too crazy here, right? So this is a display ad on a website, which I think is pretty crappy, pretty lazy. This is a display ad on social media. So let me show you how powerful this is. It's the same concept. I'm putting up pictures somewhere, but I get a lot more out of my spend. You have more space, right? Looks prettier. You get more attention. This is why Facebook is so powerful. right? At first, we all heard, oh, social media can't make you money. No, social media ads will drive revenue if done right. More space, better visuals. I really have a good control over what that visual looks like, right? If you look back at that, oh my God, that ad is so beautiful, but the way CNN placed it in that slot is just horrible, right? So it's harder. Facebook, it's the same ad. It's whatever ad you want to use on this platform that they have on mobile, tablet, desktop, marketplace, so many different outlets that you have to optimize the images for, but it just comes out a lot. You have more control over how that image looks. What's even better, though, that no one seems to be talking about yet, or that the ad actually can turn into a discussion, comments, shares, discussion, all in one. You can't do that on a CNN ad, right? You can't create discussion. You can't share an ad you see on CNN, but you can share an ad you see on Facebook. And that's where the real power is. Put a couple bucks behind that, and you start getting comments and shareability. That's free marketing. You can't get free marketing, that much free marketing, out of an ad on CNN. And 90% of budgets at large corporations are still doing the old method of advertising on websites, as opposed to truly investing into this. Yeah?
I see it's a sponsor that. Did they actually pay BuzzFeed to say that? Or how did they get, I know that they're an influencer.
Yeah, PR, right? BuzzFeed. So do we know if they paid BuzzFeed to post that article? We don't know. Can you? Yes. But can you get it for free? Yes. If someone talks about you, you can use that as the ad on Facebook. I didn't even mention that, but that's a great call out. That's huge. Yeah, we can get into a whole different discussion about FTC because you're actually required if someone is talking about you and you've paid them to disclose it at the somewhere clear. But yeah, that is, whether it's an influencer or a blog or wherever, if you are paying someone to talk about you, they have to disclose it.
I see on Amazon, verified person. He's always a host, some random person.
Yeah, totally. But at the same time, I can pay someone to buy it and review it, right? So it's tough. It's tough to kind of really see what's real and what's not real buzz. A Casper mattress, it's still expensive, even though it's cheaper than regular mattresses. And they've got all this buzz. But when you really, really look through all the reviews, I didn't buy one because I read complaints about it. So I was like, oh man, it's too good to be true. They probably fluffed all this buzz they got. But they're still $1 billion company, but they couldn't get my money. Do you have a Casper?
I have a bunch coming in for review units. Every mattress company sending me.
Oh, nice. Well, you let us know which one's the best. So here's an example of my wife, and Fu knows my wife very well. He's helped her a lot. But my wife is an artist, recording artist, and I apply the same marketing tactics to her music career as I do to Dropbox. So I just wanted to show you a Facebook ad, and we're not making any money on her music. It is if you're trying to do something in the music industry, just don't. It's too hard. But it's fun. It's fun. But here's an ad I took out. 'Cause once I started to get really good at Facebook ads, I was like, Kelly, let's do an ad on your music. She was like, what? That doesn't make sense. I was like, no, let's just do it and see what happens. So I took one of her old videos from like 7 years ago, and I took one of her articles she wrote in the Huffington Post, and I kind of did what Quip did, or Casper, whatever I just showed you. And I targeted pagans, because pagans seem to enjoy her music. My wife's not pagan. She just raps about like yoga and tarot and spirituality. But I segmented to people on Facebook that identify as pagans. And that video, in a week, got 419,000 views, 2,300 shares, so that's free marketing, right? People saying, whoa, check this out, check this out, check this out, and 763 comments. Half of those comments were really bad. People really very offensive, and you know how it is, but so what? There was 2,300 shares. Sometimes people that are really pissed, they're the ones that are gonna leave the negative comments, but people that are happy aren't. They don't have time for that, right? So we felt like this did really well for about a couple $1,000 spend. How do we measure the ROI on this? I have no idea. But I'm just showing you the... Yeah, she's happy. That's the ROI. She was happy with it. But it just shows you the difference between an ad on CNN versus an ad on Facebook or Instagram that can get very shareable, social, and give you free marketing, right? When people share your ad, that's free marketing. All right, so Email marketing, any other questions about social before I move on to email?
I wanted to know, so there's a lot of buzz about display marketing and paid marketing declining and organic marketing sort of like catching up to it.
Mhm.
How do you differentiate, how do you maintain the balance between those two? Because I feel like one complements the other, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it's tough because it's a little broad, right? Organic marketing can come in many ways. Organic search, showing up at the top of Google. Organic influencer marketing, meaning influencers are talking about you because you've done things to get that buzz going. Organic could be this ad that started to go organic because we paid for it, right? So it's definitely a little tough to make it that black and white. It really starts, again, as I said before, with what it is that you're trying to sell, what your product or your service is. It's very hard to generate organic marketing, though, right off the bat in a startup. You got to put a little money behind something to try and drive the organic buzz. Unless you are selling something or you've created something that is just so unique that it can't not be talked about, which is very hard to do. All right, we'll talk about email marketing. Two different strategies here. One is you already have subscribers and you want to keep them engaged, right? We're not really going to talk about that one because most startups don't have that. But cold emails, super important, very applicable to B2B selling. So if you have a startup here that is focused on B2B, your most powerful form of marketing will be outbound emails, cold emails. There's always going to be the strategy. So if you have a B2B product, okay, who's the list that we want to target? How are we going to get them? Most usually comes from LinkedIn. How do we get their email address? Usually on their LinkedIn if you use something called Sales Navigator. And what are we going to send to them that doesn't annoy them, that'll get me on a spam list? What are we going to send to them of value that'll get them to trust us? Because this is cold now. I'm cold emailing someone to talk to start a conversation with. It's kind of not allowed, but it is, because as long as you can make it relevant and that it is something relevant to them and to you and that there's a natural sort of connection, a cold email is acceptable. But if you start getting marked as spam, you're done. So that probably meant you weren't adding value to that person's lives. Design and copy, obviously that's going to apply to anything, whether it's your ad, your email, right? Remember, designers and copywriters, they're everywhere. You're going to need them for every marketing campaign. Sending and testing, that subject line is critical. Even though I think the stats, we open 80% of our emails on our phone, many times we won't even open an email because of that subject line. So measuring the subject line, measuring the open rates of your subject line are super important, even on a cold email. Because if you're sending out 100 cold emails and none of them are opening, and there's softwares that track this, then you got to change that subject line. Subscriber growth, that gets more into once you have customers, so I'll stay away from that for now. But analytics, super important with email. And analytics is also going to be across every single marketing tactic because you're going to want to know the ROI of every specific campaign. So I just said open rates on your subject line. That's analytics. Reply rates on your body copy. That's analytics. So you're going to want to measure these things. And I don't think you should do this unless you're in the B2B world and you really want to target that enterprise or mid-sized customer. This, to me, would be one of your biggest tactics.
Question, because I feel like this is based on what I've read and how I treat my own emails.
Yeah.
And even the people I interact with on LinkedIn, they tend to message me on LinkedIn versus email. I feel like this is a dying, I feel email is to display ads as text messaging and the sort is to social media marketing.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that because who knows where the future will be, but if you look at any large organization, the majority of their revenue is attributable and coming from email. But that is because their subscribers are so large. I'm talking about millions of people on their list. Around the holidays, how often are you getting email blasts from your favorite retailers? Probably daily. Right, but they're seeing a huge ROI from it. So you're deleting them, but someone's buying. So this is so easy to do once your subscriber list is so big. You can't blast everyone on LinkedIn and measure the open rates, right? If you have 100,000 LinkedIn followers and you have 100,000 people on your email list, if I email 100,000 people on my email list, I know how many opened. I know how many replied to me. I know how many went to my website and bought. With LinkedIn, you really don't know all that. You can potentially know how many have clicked through and bought, but you don't know how many opened. Right, exactly. But you're kind of relying on an algorithm by LinkedIn, this black box that you don't know enough about, to optimize, which is fine, but email is much more optimizable because there is no black box. It's very black and white. Can you say that a little louder? Sorry.
Does marking it as read, Gmail and stuff like that, does that count as like a opening?
Yes, that is open because you've marked it as read. But that, yeah, you didn't see it. So it's a numbers game, and a larger numbers game, right? If I'm sending out 1,000 emails, I'm hoping that there's an ROI there. If one person marked it as read, I don't really care because it's on the aggregate, the data that I'm looking at, not that individual. Unless it is that individual and you really want that contact, then you're probably going to be doing a lot more than cold emailing them. You're going to be adding them on LinkedIn. You're going to be stalking them, trying to get their Facebook, trying to meet someone that knows them, right? That's more one-to-one individual marketing, which I have not covered in this. It's a presentation in itself. That's a very effective form of B2B. But cold emails to contacts on a mass level, and by mass I mean maybe 100 a week, right? 10 a day, right? Getting those out there, cooking, adding value to that person on the other end that you're cold emailing is a very valuable strategy for B2B marketing. Any other questions? Great point about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, different strategy. It's great that you're getting replies on LinkedIn. The older demographic is not that good at LinkedIn. They're still on the emails. So if you're trying to reach C-levels at large corporations, they suck at LinkedIn. But they're a lot better at email. Anyone? All right, keep going. Here's a company I helped co-found a few years ago called Responsible. It's a web design company. Started with that little kid over there, Brian, at the bottom left. And our strategy was cold emails. We knew we could do websites for small businesses really effectively at an affordable cost with a cheap hosting plan. We just had to go get businesses. And the way we did that was we made lists of businesses and we emailed them, offered them a free sample of their site. That was the value. If you'd like, we can design a free sample of your web page just so you can see. We'll invest that time in you, right? We offered that a value. No one marked us as spam. They have around 400 customers now, multi-million-dollar business. It's completely virtual too, no office. And it's entirely dependent on cold emails. And treating the customer like gold, that customer gave us more referrals and naturally grew. And all they do is, it's just a Me Too business. They just make websites, no big deal.
So are you buying lists?
Am I what?
Buying lists? Or
No buying lists.
building lists?
No.
You're building lists?
Yeah, building. So you can't buy lists because if someone's selling it, they've sold that list to many, and that list is tainted. So don't ever buy a list. When I say make a list, I mean go type in something on Google. I want to go target restaurants in Pittsburgh. Make a list of every single restaurant in Pittsburgh. Try and find their email address. Write something small, targeted to that business so that it feels personal and offer them something of value. Make your own list. These are relationships you're trying to build, not people you're trying to spam. Did you have a question? Same question? Cool. This is a company I've been helping for the past few years. This is the software I actually use to send cold emails. It's called Gmass. The issue, when I'm helping him grow, AJ, is that there's so many other competitors out there that offer something called a mail merge, which allows you to email people on a mass level but make it personal, right? It's a Gmail integration. The company called Yesware, which has raised millions, Silicon Valley based, Mailshake, Mixmax, Mail Merge. There's even a company called Yet Another Mail Merge, right? That's how crowded this freaking space is. But guess what? He has a $90,000 a month SaaS business right now, right? He joined a crowded space, did some Me Too marketing. We did the stuff that was on the list that I shared with you before, and he was able to get a nice chunk of the market share. So don't be scared, and this is what I talk about a lot in my startup talks, is don't be scared to join a crowded space if the market size is big enough. It's okay sometimes, right?
When you say Me Too marketing, what does that mean?
Me Too marketing meaning we're also going to write content. We're also going to do social media ads. We're also going to have a Facebook profile, right? We did the stuff that they were doing, right? Nothing too creative, nothing too crazy, just Me Too stuff. How are you doing on time? All right, I'm going to rush through this. Follow the trends. Marketing changes all the time. We started off with AOL, then we got broadband, then we got YouTube and Facebook. If you can jump to be the first person doing Facebook advertising or the first person doing YouTube, it's cheaper and you get more exposure because no one else is doing it. So follow where the technology trends are going. Now it's this, how can you jump in there? And if you would have been the first to do Instagram ads and Instagram marketing, it would have been so cheap and you'd have gotten a lot of buzz because you were one of the first to do it. But now it's starting to get crowded. So what's next? Where is the world going? What marketing platform can you jump on first, as long as it's relevant to your market? Some other things to know about B2B marketing, company I started called Branding Brand. Obviously we solved a unique problem, but the way we grew this business is we treated clients like gold, and those clients referred to us. So our very first client was Dick's Sporting Goods, which we cold called for about a year to actually get. That was our first real client. But once we treated them like gold, the network started to grow. They started referring us other business. In enterprise sales, your customer will go to many different companies throughout their career. So when you treat that person like gold and then they go to a new company, they're going to use you again. So if any of you guys are doing enterprise B2B sales, I highly recommend. It's a very relationship-based business. You have to treat your client like family because they're going to be around forever, especially if they're in this type of space, which is enterprise digital. Do something crazy. I always say if you are doing marketing and you are in charge of marketing, to think of crazy ideas and try and implement them. At Branding Brand, like I said, we used to cold call Dick's Sporting Goods every single day for a year. If we didn't do that, we'd have never landed them. They would have never referred to us all the business. We ended up hitting 20 million in revenue because of all these enterprise clients that came as a result of cold calling Dick's Sporting Goods every single year. Some more do something crazy. One of the kids that I mentored back in the day, who's much bigger than I am now, Adam Lyons from Pittsburgh, we email spammed Mark Cuban and got $1 million from him, right? We sent him a cold email and he grew his business.
You said cold call Dick's every day.
Yeah.
Did you call the same person?
Yes.
Did they, I mean, that might be called stalking?
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, but I think he appreciated it because he finally said, a lot of the times we would not leave voicemails. Most of the time we would not. We try to get him on the phone. And we got him on the phone every now and then. He'd be like, I'm too busy now, but I promise, right? We were very sincere when we spoke to him. We're a local Pittsburgh company, we really need your help. We'd love to do anything for you, anything, we'd love to meet and figure out what we can do for you. Too busy right now, call me back. Too busy right now, call me back. Took a year to finally get his attention. Then he finally said, come on in, pitch us. Because he really appreciated our persistence. So yes, it could come off as stalking. Exactly. If he said, don't call me again, we would not call him again. But he finally gave us a deal. It was a $6,000 deal that we spent $30,000 of our own money to do. So we lost money on that deal, but it gained their trust and established a long-term relationship. They're still a client to this day. It's been 13 years. Other crazy stuff, Adam email spam Mark Cuban, got $1 million off of him. Cool things he did to launch Insurance Zebra, which is now called the Zebra. It's the kayak for auto insurance. Is we created an insurability score. Just like College Prowler and Niche.com has rankings, right? We've started to rank all these different schools and neighborhoods. We're ranking you. How insurable are you? So that really took the company off and got a lot of users to the product. So examples of doing some crazy stuff. And again, don't be afraid to pivot. At Branding Brand, we started off as a service company making websites, and then we turned into a mobile commerce platform, because that's something that Dick's wanted, and we built it for them. We got it patented, and then we ended up scaling that. College Prowler used to sell guidebooks. Then we went to online only and covering not just colleges, but neighborhoods and schools and K through 12 and all types of stuff. And Specklet, a company I helped, used to run a social media website, and we created a software that allows us to replay a session. And then the social media platform died, and then we just took the session recording software we built and created a session recording company out of it. So you can replay a website's visitor. So don't be afraid to pivot. That is a marketing strategy. Your product is a marketing strategy. So I don't think I have time for all this, but this is SEO. This might have to be a separate presentation. My background really is in search engine marketing and organic search marketing. Again, it's a whole nother world. I think showing up at the top of Google is one of the most valuable things you can do because it's a recurring stream of traffic. It's a marathon, real quick. 6% of people click on these ads. 40% of people click on that top result, right? These you got to pay for. You can show up instantly. This you really have to earn, but it stays there forever. That's why it's so valuable. So I kind of showed you ads are expensive. You got to pay to play. Pink is cost. Green is traffic. Right? If I want traffic, I got to start paying a lot of money for that traffic on social media, on Google Ads. But with organic search, if you do it right, it looks something like this. You can turn off your efforts on organic search or minimize them, and the traffic grows exponentially. And I've seen so many websites, including ones that I own, dethrone the David and Goliath method because of organic search. Because when you don't have that much budget, you have to get super creative. How are we doing? About done? All right. Another presentation, I'll come in and talk strictly SEO. But for now, like I said before, if anyone's had any questions about their startup, how to market it, you'll give them my email. Yeah, and we'll meet up in my office on Walnut Street in Shadyside, and we'll talk startup growth. Thank you, guys.